Ladies and gentlemen, there is a truth I want you to carry deep in your heart today. Boundaries are not barriers. Boundaries are not rejection. Boundaries are love letters to yourself. When you set a boundary, you are not pushing people away. You are protecting what makes you valuable. You are saying to the world, this is who I am. And this is how love can flow into my life without being poisoned. Boundaries are not selfish. They are sacred. They are the invisible lines that guard your dignity, your peace, and your destiny. Without them, you become a public property, used, drained, and taken for granted. But with them, you become purposeful, focused, and free. Every yes you give without boundaries becomes a burden. But every no you give with clarity becomes a gift. You cannot love fully if you are always exhausted. You cannot serve others if you are constantly empty. Boundaries refill your cup so that when you pour out, you are pouring from abundance and not from depletion. Boundaries protect your relationships. They tell your friends, your family, and even your enemies, this is how you will honor me if you want to stay in my life. They cut away confusion, they prevent resentment, and they create respect. Boundaries protect your peace. Peace is not found in silence. It is found in structure. Without boundaries, you invite chaos into your soul. But when you draw the line, when you declare what is acceptable and what is not, you discover the still waters of a rested spirit. Boundaries protect your purpose. If the enemy cannot destroy you, he will distract you. And the easiest way to be distracted is to live without boundaries. Say yes to everything, chasing every voice and following every demand. But when you know where you end and where others begin, your life becomes focused. You move from scattering energy to channeling power. Boundaries are not only about people, they are about you. They are about what you choose to consume, what you allow into your mind, what you entertain in your heart. They are about the words you believe, the habits you tolerate, and the standards you uphold. Hear me today. Boundaries are not chains. They are wings. They do not hold you down. They release you to rise higher. They empower you to live authentically, to love without fear, and to serve without resentment. So I challenge you, write those love letters to yourself. Write them in your relationships. Write them in your time. Write them in your commitments. Every time you set a boundary, you are saying, I love me enough to protect me so that I can love you from a place. Boundaries are not the end of love. They are the beginning of healthy love. Because when you honor yourself, you teach others how to honor you. So today, don't apologize for your boundaries. Don't shrink back from your standards. Stand tall, speak clearly, and remember this. Boundaries are not rejection. Boundaries are protection. Boundaries are love letters to yourself. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are doors that determine how love, respect, and energy flow into your life. They are not about controlling others, but about defining yourself, your values, your limits, your capacity, and your worth. A boundary is the line that says, This is where I end and where you begin. It is a clear declaration that your time is valuable, your energy is sacred, and your identity is non-negotiable. Think of boundaries as the framework of a house. The walls, the doors, the windows, they do not exist to imprison the people inside, but to create order, protection, and structure. Without them, there's chaos, exposure, and vulnerability. With them, there is safety, clarity, and freedom. When you set a boundary, you are not being hard, you are being honest. You are telling the truth about what your soul can carry and what it cannot. You are defining the conditions under which love can remain healthy, trust can grow, and relationships can thrive. A boundary is, in essence, self-respect spoken out loud. It is a declaration to yourself and to the world that you recognize your value and that you will not settle for less than what aligns with that value. And when you honor your boundaries, you teach others how to honor you. Boundaries are one of the purest expressions of self-respect. When you establish a boundary, you are saying to yourself and to others, I know my worth and I will not compromise it. It is not pride, it is dignity. It is the understanding that you are a steward of your own life, and that stewardship requires you to protect what is precious. Self-respect is not just about how you speak to yourself in private, it is also about what you allow in public. Every boundary you set becomes a visible marker of how much you value your time, your energy, your emotions, and your purpose. If you allow anything and everything to occupy your space, you silently declare that your space is not worth guarding. But when you draw the line, you announce to the world that your life is sacred ground, not common territory. Boundaries remind you that it is not unkind to say no, and it is not selfish to step back. In fact, it is an act of love to yourself because it protects you from depletion, manipulation, and unnecessary pain. To respect yourself is to give yourself the same honor you so easily give to others. And boundaries are the way that honor is lived out in real time. When you respect yourself enough to create limits, you teach people how to treat you. You teach them that your silence is not an invitation to be ignored. Your kindness is not a license to be abused. And your openness is not permission to be taken advantage of. Self-respect shines brightest when you no longer negotiate your worth in exchange for temporary approval. Boundaries become the voice that declares, I am valuable, I am worthy, and I am not to be mishandled. I am worthy, and I am not to be mishandled. Your purpose is the reason you were born, the assignment planted deep within you that only you can fulfill. But purpose cannot survive in an environment without order. Boundaries act as the guards that protect your purpose from being scattered, wasted, or stolen. Without boundaries, your energy is consumed by distractions. Your time is drained by demands that don't align with your calling, and your focus is diluted by things that have nothing to do with why you are here. When you do not protect your purpose, you become vulnerable to living according to other people's agendas instead of your own design. Every invitation, every opportunity, every demand on your life may look urgent, but not all of them are important. Boundaries are the filter that separates the essential from the irrelevant. They remind you that just because something is good does not mean it is right for you. And just because someone is loud does not mean they deserve your attention. Purpose requires concentration, and concentration requires separation. You cannot run your race while trying to carry the weight of every other person's expectations. Boundaries free you to say yes to what aligns with your vision and no to what distracts from it. They give you the courage to let go of what looks appealing but leads you away from your assignment. When you protect your purpose with boundaries, you are not being rigid, you are being responsible. You are stewarding your destiny with wisdom, refusing to waste your potential on paths that do not lead to your future. Purpose is too precious to leave unguarded. And boundaries are the shield that ensures you arrive at the destination you were created for. Boundaries are often misunderstood as rejection, but in truth, they are one of the deepest acts of love. They are not meant to cut people off, but to keep relationships healthy and honorable. Love without boundaries becomes distorted. It turns into control, manipulation, or sacrifice that drains one person while feeding another. But when love is guided by boundaries, it is purified, balanced, and sustainable. To set a boundary is to say, I love you enough to be clear with you, and I love myself enough not to disappear in the process. It is not about withholding affection. It is about creating the conditions where affection can thrive without resentment. Boundaries make love safe. They make trust possible. They ensure that kindness is not mistaken for weakness and that sacrifice is not taken for slavery. Every relationship needs structure, and boundaries provide that structure. They tell your friends how far they can go. They tell your family what is acceptable, and they tell your partner how to cherish you without crossing into harm. Without those lines, even the people who care for you can unintentionally cause damage. With them, love becomes mutual, not one-sided. And it goes beyond others. Boundaries are an act of love to yourself. They remind you that you are worthy of rest, worthy of respect, worthy of saying no without guilt. They protect you from being consumed while trying to care for everyone else. By loving yourself in this way, you actually increase your capacity to love others. Because you're pouring from wholeness, not from emptiness. To love without boundaries is to burn out. To love with boundaries is to last. And lasting love, whether for yourself or for others, is the truest kind of love there is. Relationships cannot thrive without clarity, and boundaries provide that clarity. They define the invisible framework that allows two people to connect without confusion, chaos, or imbalance. When boundaries are absent, relationships are filled with unspoken expectations, hidden frustrations, and silent resentments. But when boundaries are present, both parties understand the terms of respect, the limits of behavior, and the value of each other's presence. Boundaries do not weaken relationships. They strengthen them. They create the space where trust can grow because everyone knows where they stand. They protect intimacy by ensuring that love is not forced, respect is not assumed, and commitment is not taken for granted. In friendships, boundaries prevent one-sided giving and receiving. In families, they stop unhealthy patterns from being passed on. In romantic partnerships, they safeguard the bond by keeping selfishness and control from poisoning it. Boundaries also allow for individuality within relationships. They remind both people that connection does not mean control, and closeness does not mean losing identity. You can be joined together without being fused into one indistinct existence. By honoring each other's boundaries, you create a relationship where freedom and togetherness coexist, where love does not suffocate, but allows both to breathe. Every time you communicate a boundary, you are giving the relationship a chance to be authentic rather than artificial. You are saying, this is how I can show up fully, and this is what I need in order to remain present. And when both sides respect that, relationships are not only preserved, they flourish. Boundaries become the silent agreement that turn mere connections into lasting bonds. Peace is one of the most valuable treasures of life, yet it is also one of the easiest to lose when there are no boundaries. Without limits, the noise of others, the demands of circumstances, and the weight of unnecessary battles invade the quiet spaces of your soul. Boundaries act like protective walls around that treasure, ensuring that your mind and heart remain calm, even when the world around you is in chaos. Guarding your peace does not mean avoiding people or shutting out responsibility. It means knowing what belongs to you and what does not. It means refusing to carry the burdens that are not yours to carry, and declining the invitations to arguments that are designed only to steal your rest. Peace is not passive. It requires active defense. And boundaries are the tools that build that defense. When you set boundaries, you stop allowing constant interruptions to dictate your emotional state. You free yourself from the cycle of being available to everything and everyone at the expense of your own stability. You begin to see that saying no is not the end of love, but the beginning of inner balance. You realize that protecting your peace is not selfish, it is essential. Peaceful spirit creates better decisions, stronger relationships, and clearer vision. But without boundaries, that peace leaks away, leaving you restless, irritable, and exhausted. Boundaries close the gaps where chaos tries to slip in, keeping your inner world steady and your focus sharp. When you guard your peace, you are not just protecting yourself, you are also protecting the quality of what you give to others. A rested soul can love more deeply, listen more fully, and give more generously. Boundaries make sure that your peace remains intact so that you can live and love from a place of strength rather than strain. Boundaries are a direct reflection of who you are and what you believe about yourself. They rise from your identity, from the deep understanding of your value, your convictions, and your priorities. When you know who you are, you also know what you cannot allow. When you are clear about your identity, your boundaries become clear as well, because they are rooted in the non-negotiables that define your life. People who lack boundaries often struggle with identity, because they shape themselves around others' expectations instead of living from their own core. They say yes when they want to say no, they accept what violates their values, and they live under the weight of compromise. But when you are anchored in your identity, boundaries flow naturally. You no longer apologize for having standards, because those standards are an extension of your character. Boundaries declare to the world, this is what I honor, this is what I protect, this is what I will not betray about myself. They prevent you from being molded into someone else's image, because they remind you that your uniqueness has worth. They keep you from losing yourself in relationships, careers, or circumstances that demand you to become less than who you were created to be. Every time you hold firm to a boundary, you reinforce your identity. You are saying, I am not defined by your approval, by your demands, or by your opinion. I am defined by the truth of who I am. And from that place of clarity, you live with confidence, dignity, and direction. Boundaries are not rules for others. They are mirrors of yourself. They reveal the depth of your self-respect, the clarity of your values, and the strength of your identity. Trust is built on consistency, and boundaries provide that consistency. When people know where you stand, they know how to approach you, how to engage with you, and how to honor you. Boundaries create a sense of stability because they remove guesswork. Instead of leaving others confused about your limits or expectations, your boundaries draw the lines clearly, and clarity produces confidence. But without boundaries, trust is fragile. When you say yes but mean no, when you tolerate what hurts you just to keep peace, or when you constantly shift your standards depending on who is watching, people begin to wonder if they can truly rely on you. But when your boundaries are firm and steady, others know that your words and actions will align. They learn that you will not promise what you cannot deliver, and that you will not compromise your values just to please. Boundaries also teach others to trust your presence. They see that you will not explode unexpectedly because you have already communicated your limits. They discover that you can be honest without being harsh and strong without being cruel. This makes people feel safer around you because they know what to expect. Even in relationships, boundaries build trust by making love secure. A partner knows you will honor your commitments because you also honor your standards. Friends trust you with their hearts because they see that you honor your own. Boundaries show that you are dependable, not swayed by pressure, and faithful to what you say matters most. Every boundary you set and keep is a silent promise. You can trust me to be who I say I am. And when trust is established, relationships grow deeper, stronger, and more enduring. Boundaries are not barriers to connection. They are the very foundation that makes connection safe and lasting. Boundaries are more than emotional or relational tools. They are deeply spiritual because they align your inner life with your outer life. When you live without boundaries, you often find yourself saying and doing things that betray your true convictions. You become scattered, torn between pleasing others and honoring what you know in your heart to be right. But when you set boundaries, you bring your actions into agreement with your beliefs, your choices into harmony with your values, and your relationships into alignment with your spirit. Every soul longs for integrity. The wholeness that comes when who you are inside matches how you live outside. Boundaries are what create that integrity. They stop you from compromising what you know to be true. They prevent you from allowing behavior, conversations, or influences that pull you away from your faith, your principles, and your higher calling. In that sense, boundaries are not just about protecting comfort, they are about protecting covenant. There is a spiritual order to life, and boundaries help you live within that order. Just as the universe operates by laws, your spirit requires structure. When you honor your limits, you are not resisting love, you are aligning with divine wisdom. You are saying, I choose to walk in balance. I choose to guard what God has placed in me. I choose to keep my soul in peace so I can fulfill my purpose with clarity. Boundaries also guard your spiritual health by filtering what you allow to enter your heart and mind. Every word, every influence, every connection carries energy. When you lack boundaries, you absorb everything, including what contaminates your spirit. But when you establish boundaries, you open yourself only to what uplifts, strengthens, and agrees with your purpose. And this is why boundaries are not a sign of weakness, but of reverence for yourself, for your assignment, and for the one who gave it to you. They keep your spirit from being divided, your values from being diluted, and your destiny from being derailed. Boundaries align your life with your faith so that every choice reflects not just who you are, but who you were created to be. True freedom is not the absence of limits, it is the presence of the right ones. Boundaries empower freedom because they release you from the trap of living for everyone else's expectations. Without them, you become enslaved to constant demands, endless obligations, and unhealthy attachments. But when you establish boundaries, you create the space to live authentically, to move with purpose, and to love without losing yourself in the process. Boundaries free you to say yes with conviction and no without guilt. They strip away the pressure to explain yourself to everyone because your limits are already clear. Instead of being driven by fear of disappointing others, you are guided by the clarity of your priorities. This kind of freedom is not reckless, it is responsible. It gives you the ability to focus on what truly matters without being weighed down by what does not. Freedom without boundaries quickly becomes chaos. But freedom with boundaries becomes empowerment. It means you can rest without shame, work without resentment, and give without being drained. It means you no longer live as a prisoner of approval, but as a steward of your own life. Boundaries do not lock you in. They unlock the capacity to live with balance, strength, and dignity. When you embrace boundaries, you discover that freedom is not about doing everything. It is about doing what aligns with your calling. It is not about pleasing everyone. It is about living true to who you are. It is not about being everywhere. It is about being fully present where you are meant to be. Boundaries carve out the path where your freedom has direction, where your choices have meaning, and where your life flows in harmony with your purpose. In the end, boundaries are not restrictions. They are revelations. They reveal your worth, they reveal your purpose, and they reveal the kind of love you are willing to give and receive. They are not about shutting people out. They are about protecting what is sacred within you, so that you can show up in the world whole, strong, and free. Every time you draw a boundary, you are not building a wall. You are writing a love letter to yourself. You are declaring that your life matters. Your peace matters. Your purpose matters. And when you honor that truth, you not only elevate yourself, you teach others how to honor you as well. So do not be afraid to stand firm, to speak clearly to God courageously. For your boundaries are not selfish, they are essential. They are the lines that turn chaos into clarity, exhaustion into strength, and relationships into places of respect and safety. Carry this with you. Boundaries are not rejection. Boundaries are protection. Boundaries are love in its purest form. And when you live with that conviction, you walk in freedom, you walk in peace, and you walk in purpose.